Cypriot Mouflon, the wild sheep of Cyprus. The rugged mountains of Cyprus echo with the sound of hooves against limestone as one of Europe's most remarkable wild sheep species navigates the ancient terrain. The Cypriot Mouflon, Ovis Ophion, known locally as agrino, stands as a living testament to the island's rich natural heritage and represents one of the Mediterranean's most successful conservation stories. This endemic subspecies of mouflon has captured the imagination of wildlife enthusiasts, researchers and conservationists alike, embodying both the fragility and resilience of island ecosystems. Origins and evolutionary history. The story of the Cypriot Mouflon begins thousands of years ago when wild sheep first arrived on the island of Cyprus. Archaeological evidence suggests that mouflon were introduced to Cyprus during the Neolithic period, approximately 10,000 years ago, making them one of the earliest examples of human-mediated animal translocation in the Mediterranean. These ancient settlers brought with them not only the foundations of agriculture, but also the ancestors of what would eventually evolve into a distinct subspecies perfectly adapted to Cyprus's unique environment. Over millennia, isolation on the island led to evolutionary adaptations that distinguished the Cypriot mouflon from its mainland relatives. The process of island evolution, characterized by genetic drift and adaptation to specific environmental pressures, resulted in a smaller, more compact animal compared to other mouflon populations. This evolutionary journey transformed introduced animals into true Cypriots, with characteristics so distinct that taxonomists recognize them as a separate subspecies worthy of dedicated conservation efforts. The genetic isolation of Cyprus created a unique laboratory for evolution, where the mouflon population developed characteristics specifically suited to the island's Mediterranean climate, mountainous terrain, and limited resources. This evolutionary adaptation process demonstrates nature's remarkable ability to fine-tune species to their environment over relatively short geological timescales. Physical characteristics and adaptations. The Cypriot mouflon presents a striking figure against the backdrop of Cyprus's mountainous landscape. Adult males, known as rams, typically weigh between 35 to 55 kilograms and stand approximately 65 to 75 centimeters at the shoulder. Females, called ewes, are considerably smaller, weighing between 25 to 35 kilograms. This sexual dimorphism is typical of wild sheep species and reflects different evolutionary pressures on males and females. The most distinctive feature of male Cypriot mouflon is their magnificent curved horns, which can grow up to 85 centimeters in length. These horns curve backward and outward in a graceful arc, forming nearly complete circles in older individuals. The horns serve multiple purposes, from establishing dominance hierarchies during breeding season to providing defense against predators. Female mouflon either lack horns entirely or possess small, straight horn stubs, reflecting their different behavioral ecology and survival strategies. The coat of the Cypriot mouflon varies seasonally and between sexes. During summer months, both males and females sport a reddish-brown to light brown coat that provides excellent camouflage against the sun-bleached vegetation and rocky terrain. Winter brings a darker, denser coat that offers better insulation against the cooler mountain temperatures. Adult rams develop a distinctive white saddle patch on their backs and white markings on their legs, creating a striking contrast that may play a role in species recognition and social signaling. Their compact, muscular build reflects thousands of years of adaptation to rocky, steep terrain. Strong legs with hard, sure-footed hooves allow them to navigate precipitous cliff faces and rocky outcrops with remarkable agility. This adaptation has proven crucial for their survival, as it enables them to access feeding areas and escape routes unavailable to potential predators or competitors. Habitat and distribution. The Cypriot mouflon inhabits the Troodos Mountains, the largest mountain range on Cyprus, which rises to over 1,950 meters at Mount Olympus. This mountainous region provides the perfect combination of rugged terrain, diverse vegetation zones, and relative isolation from human disturbance that the species requires. The mouflon's range encompasses approximately 70 square kilometers of the most inaccessible parts of these mountains, including steep-sided valleys, rocky ridges, and dense pine forests. Within this range, Mouflon show a preference for areas between 500 and 1,400 meters elevation, where Mediterranean vegetation gives way to montane forests. These elevation zones provide optimal conditions for the species, offering cool temperatures during hot summers and access to diverse food sources throughout the year. The terrain in these areas is characterized by steep slopes, rocky outcrops, and scattered patches of forest that provide both feeding opportunities and shelter. The fragmented nature of suitable habitat has created distinct population clusters within the overall range. These subpopulations are connected by corridors of marginal habitat that allow for some genetic exchange, though the degree of movement between groups varies depending on season, food availability, and human activity levels. Understanding these movement patterns has been crucial for conservation planning and habitat management efforts. Seasonal migrations within their range are driven primarily by food availability and weather conditions. During hot, dry summers, mouflon often move to higher elevations where temperatures are cooler and water sources more reliable. Winter snows may force them to lower elevations where food is more accessible and shelter more abundant. These seasonal movements require landscape-level conservation approaches that protect not just core habitats but also the corridors that connect them. Diet and foraging behavior. As herbivores, Cypriot mouflon have adapted to make the most of Cyprus's Mediterranean vegetation, which can be sparse and seasonally variable. Their diet consists primarily of grasses, herbs, shrubs, and tree foliage, with seasonal variations reflecting changes in plant availability and nutritional content. This dietary flexibility has been key to their survival in an environment where drought and food scarcity are regular occurrences. During spring months, when rainfall has encouraged new growth, mouflon focus on tender grasses and herbs that provide high nutritional value. Common food plants include various species of grass, wild oregano, thyme, and other aromatic herbs that characterize Mediterranean vegetation. The high protein content of young vegetation during this period is crucial for reproduction and raising young. Summer brings dietary challenges as vegetation becomes dry and less nutritious. Mouflon adapt by shifting their foraging behavior, feeding more intensively during cooler morning and evening hours while seeking shade and shelter during the heat of the day. They turn to browsing on shrubs and trees, including pine needles, oak leaves, and various drought-resistant plants that maintain some nutritional value even in dry conditions. The ability to digest fibrous, low-quality vegetation gives mouflon a competitive advantage in their harsh environment. Their four-chambered stomach system, typical of ruminants, allows them to extract maximum nutrition from poor-quality forage through fermentation and rechewing of cud. This adaptation enables them to survive on vegetation that would be inadequate for non-ruminant herbivores. Water requirements present another challenge in Cyprus's dry climate. While mouflon can obtain some moisture from their food, they require access to drinking water, particularly during hot, dry periods. Knowledge of water sources and the ability to travel considerable distances to reach them is passed down through generations and represents crucial survival information within mouflon populations. Social structure and behavior. The social organization of Cypriot mouflon reflects a complex balance between cooperation and competition that has evolved to maximize survival in their challenging mountain environment. For most of the year, adult males and females live in separate groups, coming together only during the autumn breeding season. This segregation reduces competition for food resources and allows each sex to pursue optimal foraging strategies. Female groups, consisting of ewes and their young, typically number between 3 to 12 individuals and are led by the oldest, most experienced female. These matriarchal societies benefit from the accumulated knowledge of elder females, who remember the locations of seasonal food sources, water holes, and safe shelter sites. The strong bonds between females in these groups provide mutual protection and assistance in raising young. Male groups are generally smaller and more fluid in composition, with individuals joining and leaving based on factors such as age, social status, and seasonal movements. Young males typically leave their natal groups around 2 years of age and may spend several years in bachelor groups before reaching full maturity. Adult rams often become more solitary, particularly outside the breeding season, though they may form temporary associations for mutual benefit. The breeding season, which occurs from October to December, transforms the social dynamics of mouflon populations. During this period, mature rams compete intensely for access to female groups, engaging in spectacular horn-clashing battles that can be heard echoing across mountain valleys. These contests establish dominance hierarchies that determine breeding rights, with older, larger males typically achieving the most matings. Communication among mouflon involves a variety of vocalizations, body postures, and scent-marking behaviors. Rams produce deep, resonant calls during the breeding season that serve to attract females and warn rival males of their presence. Visual displays, including the presentation of horns and distinctive posturing, play important roles in establishing dominance without the need for physical confrontation in many situations. Reproduction and life cycle. The reproductive cycle of Cypriot Mouflon is precisely timed to maximize the survival chances of offspring in Cyprus's seasonal Mediterranean climate. The breeding season coincides with autumn rains, which stimulate new plant growth and ensure that females will have access to high-quality nutrition during pregnancy. This timing also means that births occur in spring when weather conditions are favorable and food resources are most abundant. Gestation lasts approximately 150 days, with most births occurring between March and May. Females typically give birth to 1 or 2 lambs, though twins are less common in years when food resources are limited. The birthing process usually takes place in secluded, rocky areas that provide protection from predators and harsh weather. Newborn lambs are remarkably precocial, able to stand and move within hours of birth. This rapid development is crucial for survival in their rugged mountain habitat, where mobility can mean the difference between life and death. The reddish-brown coat of young lambs provides excellent camouflage against the rocky terrain, and they quickly learn to remain motionless when danger threatens. Maternal care is intensive during the first few weeks of life, with mothers nursing frequently and maintaining close contact with their offspring. Lambs begin to supplement milk with solid food at around 2 weeks of age, though they continue nursing for several months. The weaning process is gradual, allowing young animals to develop the complex digestive systems necessary for processing mature vegetation. The learning period extends well beyond weaning, as young mouflon must acquire the extensive local knowledge necessary for survival. This includes learning the locations of seasonal food sources, water holes, safe travel routes, and appropriate responses to various threats. Much of this knowledge is transmitted through social learning within the family group, highlighting the importance of maintaining stable social structures for long-term population viability. Sexual maturity is reached at different ages for males and females, reflecting their different reproductive strategies. Females typically breed for the first time at 2 years of age, while males may not achieve breeding success until they are 4 or 5 years old and large enough to compete with established dominant males. This delayed maturity in males is compensated by potentially longer reproductive lifespans for those individuals that survive to establish themselves in the dominance hierarchy. Conservation history and challenges. The conservation story of the Cypriot Mouflon represents both triumph and ongoing challenge. By the 1930s, unrestricted hunting and habitat loss had reduced the population to fewer than 15 individuals, bringing the subspecies to the brink of extinction. This dramatic decline prompted the establishment of hunting restrictions and the creation of protected areas that would prove crucial for the species' recovery. The Paphos Forest, established as a game reserve in 1939, provided the core protection that allowed the remaining mouflon population to stabilize and begin recovering. Strict hunting regulations, habitat management, and active protection from poaching created conditions that supported population growth throughout the mid-20th century. By the 1970s, the population had recovered to several hundred individuals, demonstrating the species' resilience when given adequate protection. However, recovery has not been without setbacks. Periodic droughts, disease outbreaks, and human encroachment have caused population fluctuations that remind conservationists of the species' continued vulnerability. The small population size makes mouflon particularly susceptible to genetic bottlenecks and demographic stochasticity that can threaten long-term viability even when immediate threats are controlled. Modern conservation efforts focus on addressing both direct threats and underlying ecological challenges. Habitat fragmentation remains a significant concern as development pressures increase around protected areas. Road construction, tourism infrastructure, and agricultural expansion all contribute to habitat loss and create barriers to movement between subpopulations. Climate change poses an emerging threat that may prove more challenging to address than traditional conservation problems. Rising temperatures and changing precipitation patterns could alter vegetation communities and water availability in ways that stress mouflon populations. The species' restricted range and specialized habitat requirements make it particularly vulnerable to climate-driven environmental changes. Disease represents another ongoing concern, particularly given the small population size and limited genetic diversity of Cypriot Mouflon. Outbreaks of diseases that affect domestic sheep and goats could potentially devastate wild populations, especially if transmitted through contact with free-ranging domestic animals. Monitoring programs and disease prevention strategies have become important components of conservation management. Current status and population dynamics. Today's Cypriot Mouflon population is estimated to number between 2,000 and 3,000 individuals, representing a remarkable recovery from near extinction but still maintaining the species' status as endangered. This population size, while stable in recent years, remains small enough that conservation biologists continue to classify the subspecies as vulnerable to extinction from catastrophic events or cumulative impacts of multiple stressors. Population monitoring programs using modern techniques provide detailed insights into demographic trends and population structure. Annual surveys combine direct observation, camera trapping, and genetic sampling to track population size, age structure, and reproductive success. These data reveal that the population experiences natural fluctuations related to environmental conditions, with particularly harsh winters or severe droughts causing temporary declines. The age structure of the population shows a healthy balance of different age classes, suggesting that reproduction and survival rates are sufficient to maintain population stability. However, detailed analysis reveals some concerning trends, including lower recruitment rates in certain areas and signs of inbreeding depression in isolated subpopulations. These findings have prompted management interventions designed to maintain genetic diversity and population connectivity. Spatial distribution within the protected range shows that mouflon populations are not evenly distributed but concentrate in areas that provide optimal combinations of food, water, and shelter. Understanding these habitat preferences has been crucial for identifying priority areas for protection and management. Some areas that historically supported mouflon populations remain empty, suggesting that either habitat quality has declined or that natural recolonization barriers prevent population expansion. The carrying capacity of available habitat appears to limit further population growth in some areas, leading to density-dependent effects on reproduction and survival. This has prompted research into habitat enhancement techniques that could increase the number of mouflon that protected areas can support without compromising individual fitness or long-term population viability. Management and protection efforts. Contemporary management of Cypriot mouflon populations employs a science-based approach that combines traditional conservation methods with cutting-edge techniques. The Cyprus Department of Forests serves as the primary management authority, working in collaboration with international conservation organizations and research institutions to develop and implement comprehensive management plans. Habitat management forms the cornerstone of conservation efforts, focusing on maintaining and improving the quality of mountain ecosystems that support mouflon populations. This includes forest management practices that maintain appropriate vegetation structure, water source development and maintenance, and the creation of firebreaks that reduce the risk of catastrophic wildfires. Prescribed burning and selective vegetation management help maintain the mosaic of habitats that mouflon require for feeding, shelter, and reproduction. Anti-poaching efforts continue to play a crucial role in population protection. While illegal hunting pressure has decreased significantly since the species' lowest point, occasional poaching incidents still occur and can have disproportionate impacts on small populations. Ranger patrols, surveillance systems, and community engagement programs work together to deter illegal activities and ensure rapid response to conservation threats. Genetic management has become increasingly important as understanding of small population dynamics has advanced. Programs to monitor genetic diversity use DNA analysis to track relatedness within and between subpopulations, identifying individuals and groups that may benefit from management interventions. In some cases, careful translocation of individuals between subpopulations helps maintain genetic diversity and reduce the risk of inbreeding depression. Research programs provide the scientific foundation for adaptive management approaches. Long-term studies of population dynamics, habitat use, and environmental factors help managers understand how mouflon populations respond to different conditions and management interventions. This research has revealed the importance of maintaining landscape connectivity and has guided the development of habitat corridors that facilitate movement between population centers. Community engagement and education programs build local support for conservation efforts while raising awareness about the importance of Cyprus's unique wildlife heritage. School programs, nature tours, and media campaigns help ensure that the public understands and supports the investments required for effective conservation. Local communities often serve as important partners in monitoring and protection efforts. Ecological role and significance. The Cypriot Mouflon plays a significant ecological role in the mountain ecosystems of Cyprus, functioning as both a major herbivore and an important component of food webs. Their grazing activities influence vegetation structure and composition, creating habitat heterogeneity that benefits other plant and animal species. Areas where mouflon graze regularly develop distinctive vegetation patterns that support greater biodiversity than ungrazed areas. As selective feeders, mouflon influence plant community dynamics by preferentially consuming certain species while avoiding others. This selective pressure can maintain plant diversity by preventing any single species from dominating habitats, while also creating opportunities for less competitive plants to establish and thrive. Their trampling activities create microsites that may be important for seed germination and establishment of certain plant species. The role of mouflon as prey species, while limited due to the absence of large predators on Cyprus, still influences ecosystem dynamics through their interactions with smaller predators and scavengers. Mortality from natural causes provides food resources for various carrion feeding species, while the presence of mouflon herds may influence the behavior and distribution of smaller predators that opportunistically prey on young or weak individuals. Mouflon also serve as ecosystem engineers through their physical impacts on the landscape. Their trails create erosion patterns that influence water flow and soil development, while their wallowing and resting sites create distinctive habitat features. These physical modifications can persist for years and influence the establishment and growth of vegetation in subtle but important ways. The cultural and ecological significance of mouflon extends beyond their immediate biological role to encompass their value as flagship species for conservation in Cyprus. Their recovery from near extinction demonstrates the effectiveness of dedicated conservation efforts and provides hope for other endangered species. As one of Cyprus's most iconic native animals, mouflon serve as ambassadors for the island's unique natural heritage and the importance of protecting Mediterranean ecosystems. Future prospects and conservation priorities. The future of the Cypriot mouflon depends on continued commitment to conservation and adaptive management in the face of emerging challenges. Climate change represents perhaps the greatest long-term threat, requiring proactive strategies to help populations adapt to changing environmental conditions. This may include habitat modifications to ensure water availability during extended droughts and the protection of high-elevation refugia that could serve as climate havens. Expansion of protected areas and improvement of habitat connectivity represent important priorities for ensuring long-term population viability. Corridors that link currently isolated subpopulations could facilitate genetic exchange and reduce the risk of local extinctions. Creating larger, more connected networks of protected habitat would also provide resilience against habitat loss and climate-related changes. Genetic management will likely become increasingly sophisticated as new technologies allow for more detailed analysis of population genetics and more precise interventions. Advanced techniques for maintaining genetic diversity in small populations, including potential genetic rescue programs, may prove necessary for long-term conservation success. International cooperation and knowledge exchange with other mouflon conservation programs could provide valuable insights and resources for Cyprus conservation efforts. Collaboration with researchers and managers working on related subspecies in other Mediterranean regions could accelerate the development of effective conservation strategies and techniques. Tourism and education programs offer opportunities to generate both funding and public support for conservation while providing economic incentives for local communities to support protection efforts. Carefully managed wildlife viewing programs could help fund conservation activities while raising awareness about the importance of mouflon conservation. The Cypriot mouflon stands as a testament to both the fragility and resilience of island ecosystems. Their remarkable recovery from near extinction demonstrates what can be achieved through dedicated conservation efforts, while their continuing vulnerability reminds us that success in conservation requires ongoing commitment and adaptation. As Cyprus continues to develop and face new environmental challenges, the fate of its wild sheep will depend on society's willingness to invest in the protection of its natural heritage for future generations. In the rugged mountains of Cyprus, where ancient limestone meets Mediterranean sky, the Cypriot mouflon continues its evolutionary journey. Each lamb born in spring represents both a conservation success and a reminder of the ongoing responsibility to protect one of Europe's most remarkable wild sheep. Their story is far from over, and the next chapters will be written by the conservation actions taken today.